Hello, I'm Bernie Hayes. Today we'll be talking about art and arts festival with Robert Green. We also will find out what his cultural name is today on the Bernie Hayes Show. And welcome back. I'm Bernie Hayes, and Robert Green is my guest. Robert, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Bernie. How are you?
I'm really good. Good to see you back. It's been a couple of years since you've been here before.
Yeah, it's been quite about a couple of years. Yes, the pandemic shut us down a bit.
So, Robert, you went through a naming ceremony some years ago. What's your other name?
I did. I actually didn't go through a ceremony, Bernie. I chose a name other than quote unquote what we call a slave name.
Sure.
I chose Rudo Elamine.
Okay.
Rudo is Zimbabwe for love, Bernie.
Okay.
And a good brother named Nana Kofi gave me my day name, which is a Friday name, they call it in Africa, and that's Kofi. And my brother, he's a Muslim, so I adopted his name, Elamine.
Yes. Okay, that's wonderful.
Yes.
What is the St. Louis Fab Incorporated? What is that?
St. Louis African American Artifact Festival Bazaar, Bernie, is an event that we've been doing for the last 8 years, and it celebrates our history and culture from the point of view that I try to introduce folks to our people to what an artifact actually is.
Yeah.
So we celebrate our history and culture by introducing artifacts and historical information to folks, and bringing out we have the art museum, the history museum, etc., and other individuals coming out with artifacts and just a variety of things. And then people most times they think that an artifact is have to be a relic.
Yeah.
I like to tell people that an artifact is anything that anything, it could be anything. Everything that the Egyptians created was an artifact, and everything that we created in this world today is an artifact. So the mummies, when they die, they become an artifact.
Yeah. So
everything's an artifact. So the St. Louis African American Artifact Festival and Bazaar came from an event they had in Collinsville called the Ethnographic Show, and at the Ethnographic Show they had a lot of Indian artifacts, and I used to go there because I'm an ethnographic type guy, so I like things from all cultures. So when I would go to the Collinsville show, they would have Indian artifacts, but there was not one a Native American in the room, and indigenous people in the room selling Native American artifacts.
Wow.
And when I observed that, I decided to start at the festival so I can introduce black folks to start preserving our artifacts.
That's wonderful.
And so that's how that got started.
I guess we can focus on the artifact around your neck, and also on each hand you have some symbols. Tell us about what they are, please.
Yes, sir. In a brief, I'm not an ethnographic expert or anything, but I give you just a general overview. The rings and the piece I got that wore around my neck, and the bracelet, they're all original pieces. They're museum quality pieces, and they come from the Sanufo people of West Africa. Now, the piece I got around my I wear here, this is a bull, and so the rings on my finger. And bulls in any culture is a symbol of power and wealth and endurance, and just a very powerful symbol in any culture.
That's why they call the bulls running on Wall Street. Huh?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they use that symbol as well.
Raku, you also have a bunch of activities coming up. Well, first of all, let me tell you, how did you get into the art? You said you visited this place in East St. Louis or Collinsville on the east side, and you wanted to bring this to the African American community. How did you get interested? I mean, what spiked you to say, hey, I need to do this?
Well, Bernie, as you know, I grew up in Pernago, and Pernago is like downtown.
Yeah.
So I used to venture downtown. I was a tag-along crybaby LA boy when I came up in St. Louis. And I had 2 older brothers. And I used to venture downtown with them. But they would chase me back until I got old enough to find my way downtown. So I would go down to the old post office. Yeah. And at the old post office, the big murals are in there. There, on the walls. Right. And so I love to look at that. Now, we were depicted in the murals, but in most instances, we were in menial positions, labor positions, but it was still beautiful. And then I would go down to The library. And to me, the library was an art museum, a history museum, a concert hall, all wrapped into one. But one thing that I found down there that really changed my life and got me involved in our culture when I was like probably below 10 years old and was able to read though, I ran into this book called The History of West Africa, date back to like the 1600s. And I read that book and it enlightened me because on TV, when I was a young boy, I heard this white gentleman being interviewed, and he was talking about the violence and crime that was purported to be happening in and around Pernigo.
Yeah.
And his response to that was, he said, how do you get rid of that? His response was to kick their N-word back to Timbuktu. And that book that I found at the library, that book had a section in it that delineated about Timbuktu. And Timbuktu, at the time, was a highly advanced cultural resource center. And so when I discovered that, you know, how great that was and how great Africa was as a continent, then I was instantly in love with the culture.
And Timbuktu had a gorgeous, enormous library.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, the Greeks and Romans studied from some of the books they got from Timbuktu.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Yes, sir.
But your wife is also interested in what's going on here. Tell us about your wife, Robert.
Well, my wife, we've been married for 36 years. Been dating, you know, about totally 36 years, add about another little bit on there. So we've been together about 50 years total. Mm-hmm. And my wife is a wonderful individual. She's a Lutheran. She's a good mother. She's a teacher, so she loves children, and she's just a wonderful all-around person. You know, just you know, I always say, you know, if you find a decent man, then there's always a strong woman behind that man. You know, at least that's been my experience.
And she's deeply is involved in these artifacts and so forth, and in cultural education as you are.
Yes, she is. She is, and everything that I do, she supports me wholeheartedly, as I her. But you know, Bernie, I was running my house as the Frederick Douglass Museum of African American Vernacular Images, and she allowed me to do that for several years. But then, out of respect and love for her, I shut it down. And so now I have a studio down the street. So I'm not totally out of it. I'm an artist too, so I have a studio down the street.
Okay.
But my wife is she has the biggest, I would say the biggest Barack and Michelle Obama collection probably in St. Louis, maybe the nation, perhaps the world, because she worked on their campaign and she collected a whole lot of memorabilia. So one of these days in my studio, I'm going to have an exhibition of her Barack and Michelle Obama collection.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
It's amazing.
That'd be wonderful. You got to come back here and talk about it and bring her with you so we can talk about that and get some information out to different people.
Absolutely.
I know they have several events coming up, and I'm thinking perhaps maybe we wait till the next segment to show some of the different festivals that you'll be promoting. But in the meantime, I want to talk more about you.
Okay.
What do you hope to gain from what you're doing, Robert? What education are you trying to present?
Well, Bernie, first and foremost is that just like I learned about my history and culture, it wasn't forced down my throat. So I want to give the young people what they want, the food, the entertainment, the dance, the song, and all that. Yeah. But I want them to stumble in something at the festival that will perhaps change their lives. People think I like to do festivals to run around and I add more and more, and I'm going to continue to add more and more until I can't add no more because of my health or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I am not doing festivals just to have parties and to have food and drink. I'm actually trying to start a movement, and that movement is to do enough things where we come together enough times that we'll create an economic paradigm shift and start to do cooperative economics with each other. Yeah. And the things that I'm doing is on the north side of St. Louis, where we live. And I'm focusing on Fairground Park. I live in the St. Louis Place neighborhood, and the St. Louis Place neighborhood is next to the NGA site. In fact, they're right behind my alley. And so that neighborhood is going to be gentrified. And so I have moved, I like to, don't get me wrong, I'm not a militant or anything, but I have moved my battle line to Fairground Park. Because there's a lot of people that still live around Fairground Park and surrounding neighborhoods. So I'm trying to take the message there and say, hey, we need to stay here because once we move out the city, we'll never be able to come back. We're going to lose all that. I mean,
Okay.
and then in my life, I've been moved around so much, it's just insane. So while I live in St. Louis Place, the battlefront for me now is Fairground Park and further north.
Okay. Well, I got a lot more to ask you about, Robert. We're going to take a
Yes, sir.
very short break here.
Okay.
In Raku, and we'll be right back after this.
Okay.
It's so easy to get tired out, burned out, and worn out, and that's why we have to let the rivers of living water flow over us and believe that God is doing a new and great work at this time, standing up to the oppressors that come from every different direction, having God wash us from clean from all the fears, the worries, the uncertainties, the what-ifs, and stand up for justice at this moment. Justice doesn't mean just us. It means letting the rivers of living water flow through us as we get in touch with God. This past week, I've been reading a book on George Washington Carver, a great man who had every excuse in the world just to kind of go through life. But instead, when he saw a problem, he cried out to God and believed him for a solution. He cried out to God at a young age, said, Lord, show me your universe. And he said, it's too great and too big for you. Well, Lord, show me man, how he's made up. He said, that's too big for you. And then he said, Lord, show me a peanut. Show me how a peanut's made up. And what did he do? God used that man to turn the South upside down as he came up with all these different usages for the peanut. And instead of just growing cotton, they started growing peanuts, and he started showing usage for sweet potatoes and so many other forms of vegetation in life. One man calling out and letting the wisdom of God flow in him and through him. This is the first day of the rest of our lives. So let's give the Lord our life, not our excuses. Let's believe him, like George Washington Carver did, to do exceedingly abundantly beyond we can even ask or think. This is a glorious day, and he's promised to release his unlimited power in us. He says, ask, it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, it shall be opened unto you. He tells us in John 14:12, behold, I tell you the truth. If you believe in me, Jesus said, you can do the very works I do. Yes, even greater things. I'm going to the Father. Whatever you ask the Father in my name, I will do it. George Washington Carver did that. You and I can do that. We can see the unlimited unlocked in our lives as we stop whining and start becoming winners and let the power of God flow in us and through us.
Welcome back. I'm Bernie Hayes. Raku Alameen is my guest.
Rudo Alameen.
Rudo Alameen.
Yeah.
Also known as Robert Green.
Yes, sir.
But Rudo, I understand there's a bunch of things coming up starting very, very soon. Tell us about some of these posters we want to see. This is the Freedom. Tell us about
this. This is the first annual Juneteenth Freedom celebration, and there has always been, Juneteenth Freedom celebration, freedom celebration. But I've changed it to Freedom because we physically broke those chains, those physical chains. We physically broke those chains, but a lot of us, are still got some things in our head that we need to work on, and so that's why I'm concentrating on the dome. And I put that graphic you just had up there, had think, and it had all the things that in English that you do in Kwanzaa, the Google Zaba, the 7 principles of Kwanzaa is encapsulated in the brain in English and instead of Swahili. And
yeah,
so,
see that in Google Zaba, all the different aspects of it. So instead of freedom, you said freedom.
Freedom.
Meaning
freedom.
the cranial. The cranium.
Focus on the mind. Focus on getting our minds free. And that think part comes from the fact that my mother always tell me to think about what you do. Give it some consideration. Think. So and then I worked for IBM for 25 years, and IBM they had wherever you go within their corporation, think was the mantra of IBM of sort.
Okay.
And so they had it all over the place. Think.
Now the dates will be when?
This festival is Juneteenth is on June 19th, Father's Day. And a lot of Juneteenth celebrations are going to be the 18th. But I thought, we're going to keep true to the actual date. And I think that'd be a wonderful date for fathers to come out with their families and support. And I'm really trying to pack the park, Bernie. I think about the Million Man March, and I think about how we mobilized to go to Washington, D.C.
Sure.
For the Million Man March. And then we was given the order to come back here and to get involved in the community and do things in the community. I think we need maybe not a million man march in St. Louis, but we need certainly a 10,000 man or 20,000 family march. And I think the Juneteenth celebration is a reigniter that we should do every year to reignite and to define and take control all that's under our power and command to benefit socially and economically from Juneteenth. That's a reigniter. Every year we should celebrate that to set the year off toward that cooperative economic movement that we're trying to create.
And this year will be on Father's Day, June 19th.
June the 19th.
That's
June the
wonderful.
19th.
Rudo, we're going to also show another poster here. What is this? Tell us about this.
Well, the Taste of North St. Louis, that was one that my daughters, both my daughters are involved in what I do wholeheartedly and you know, kind of, you know, got into it because they was born into culture. And so my daughter, she kind of came and said, Daddy, why don't we have a taste of North St. Louis? Because they do have a taste of Black St. Louis, but it's in South St. Louis, and that's okay and that's cool. But taste of North St. Louis is kind of play on words because you have food and everything there, but when you come into North St. Louis and you look up and you see something that you haven't seen because you've never been to North St. Louis before, that's a taste. So it's not just taste of food, but it's a taste of what we have to offer in North St. Louis.
Taste of culture.
Taste of culture.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the next one. Tell us about this.
Now, the 8th annual St. Louis Fab, now that's our signature event, and that's a wonderful, wonderful event. And we do that on 14th Street, and this will be our 8th year. My wife and I, we started this in 2013 with just my wife and I. Like I said, she supports me whatever I do. And it just grown. In 2019, when we had the last one we had about 5,000 people come through. We had 135 vendors. We had entertainment. We had speeches from the stage. Politicians come out. It was just a wonderful event to celebrate our history and our culture, the rich heritage that we have.
And it's beautiful, too. So many vendors. I mean, you can buy almost anything that you could possibly want.
Almost anything.
Yeah, in fact, my wife and I participated in the past 3
yes,
festivals.
You know, of course, UV came out and sang a couple times.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Okay, how about the next poster here?
The Fruit I Go Forever. Now you're hitting home, Bernie, with that one. Now, that one we did in 21. Now, when I came out of the pandemic, well, we haven't come out of the pandemic, but we're still getting shots. But, you know, in 21, I started a group page. Sheila Corbin, she started a group page, then she shut it down, and then I started it back up. And the people asked, well, what are we going to do in 21? So I decided we'd do a picnic and call it the first annual Fruit I Go Forever picnic. So the Fruit I Go, we were a formidable force at one time, you know, infamously or whatever. Sure. We was formidable. And I think we're still formidable. And because there's a lot of us still left.
Well, so, people are proud who grew up in Fruit-I-Go. The people seem like they have a pride about them that say, hey, I'm from Fruit-I-Go, and I want everybody to know it. Absolutely,
absolutely. And, you know, people know some things about Fruit-I-Go, but they don't know the real things about Fruit-I-Go. They think when they see the buildings, how they were, you know, vandalized and all this and the other, those buildings that they showed most times were the building that was vacated. But the legacy of Fruit-I-Go it's not in the buildings. It's in the people who call the buildings home. Right. And so they very seldom tell about the success narrative of the people who lived in Fruit-I-Go. They very seldom tell about Darlene Green, who's the best controller St. Louis ever had, or the Spink brothers that came out of Fruit-I-Go, or Robert Green that became an engineer and do wonderful things, or just a common person that just decent. Right. You know, they tell about the few negative things that happened in Fruit-I-Go. But 99.9% of Fruit-I-Go was positive. And so this picnic and the things I'm doing in association with the Fruit-I-Go is to try to set debunk the mythological Fruit-I-Go. Sure. And tell the real narrative, the true narrative of Fruit-I-Go. And so we're working on discussions, we're working on a book and everything, and to set the record straight. That's great. And that's what we need to do throughout our culture. Because if we let others write what they think they know, then, it's always wrong, isn't it? It's always wrong. And they leave so much out. Yeah, it's so much out. So we have to write we have to write what we know so they won't misstate. You got to write the books. That's right. Okay, the next poster is? Unity Festival and Market. We started that in 2019. And this is an interesting one, Bernie. And I say that because this one was held in Fairground Park in 2019. And I went out to several organizations, and some of these organizations was deep in the culture, deep in the culture for years. But I'm not gonna call any name, but some of the members were scared to go to Fairground Park. And I understand, Fairground Park come with a reputation just like Pernago came with a reputation.
Yeah.
But I think we have to overcome those reputations, because Fairground Park is the most beautiful park in St. Louis with the most amenities in Fairground Park. And we went out there in 2019. I just named a few organizations that went with me. Better Family Life, University People African Organization, the Nation of Islam, Percy Green was there.
Action, yeah.
Who?
OBS, yeah.
Yes, so, yeah. And we had no incidents. It was a wonderful event. And so I said, as soon as this pandemic over, I'm going back to Fairground Park over and over and over again and just celebrate right there in the center of Black St. Louis.
That's great. We got to take another short break here, Robert, but I want to come back and make sure that we know how to reach you and how to participate in some of these activities.
Yes, sir.
We'll be right back after this.
As we celebrate 50 years of God's faithfulness, how I thank God for all the years that we've been able to work side by side with Bernie Hayes. What a blessing this man has been, and what a blessing all of you all have been as you've continued to partner with New Life Evangelistic Center so we can feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, reach out and be a family to those that have no family at all. Now, as we're celebrating 50 years of God's faithfulness, I'm asking you to pray that we can get back into 1411 Locust at this particular moment. It was such a hideous crime when rich folks move in the neighborhood, shut that building down and put the homeless on the street. So many are suffering out there. Now, if you'd like myself or my grandson, Chris Aaron, to come and share with your church or business or group, please call us at 314-421-302. Yes, we're celebrating 50 years of God's faithfulness, thanking God for Bernie Hayes and all of his supporters and all of you that have been praying. The door's open now. We want to move into 1411 Locust. We've got to complete the work. Through your prayers, through your involvement, we can make a difference. It's New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri.
Today's Black History subject is York. York was born around 1770, an American explorer and historic figure, being the only African-American member on the Lewis and Clark expedition. He was the first African-American to cross the continent and see the Pacific, and has become an American icon, and several monuments depicting him were erected honoring his legacy. York was also born enslaved. York expected to be given his freedom after the successful expedition was over in view of what he called his immense services to Clark. He expressed irritation about York's insistence on remaining in Louisville, where his wife and possibly children were. A fur trader who wrote a memoir told of meeting twice a Negro man living among the Crow Indians in what is today Wyoming, who said that he first came there with Lewis and Clark. He was living very well among the Crow, who treated him as a chief. York.
Now you can take NLEC TV anywhere as you put the NLEC TV app on your iPhone or mobile device. NLEC TV is an innovative TV station that's on the cutting edge of community service. When you tune in to NLEC TV, you'll discover a television station that has been operated by previously homeless individuals who've received broadcast training through New Life Evangelistic Center's unique on-the-job training program. On NLEC TV, you'll discover wholesome family, community, renewable energy, and inspirational programming. For further information, call 314-436-2424 or go to nlecstl.org. That's nlecstl.org.
And welcome back. I'm Bernie Hayes. Today's guest is Robert Green. Robert, Bob Bimler, engineer, wanted to know all the wonderful things that we just showed. Is there a cost to them?
It is absolutely free to the public, Bernie. The vendor, there is a fee. All the information is on our webpage, which is saintlafab.com, which is SAINTLAAAFAB.com. So you go to our webpage and everything is out there, crystal clear.
What about a phone number, Rudolph?
The phone number, our office phone number is 314-243-1021.
Okay. Will someone answer that phone to them? Or if they don't answer, can they leave a message and get back to them?
If they don't answer, I'll definitely leave a message.
And what about those people who may want to participate vendors. Are you looking for vendors, and do you need any other assistance?
We're looking for vendors, especially, most importantly, for our Fairground Park event. All our events are getting good response. We got 3,000-4,000 people saying they're coming to them for each one of our events. Fairground Park is, people really scared of Fairground Park, so we really need vendors, food vendors, vendors of all sorts for Fairground Park. So you can go to our webpage. Again, like I said, it's Saint Lafab, SaintLaFab.com, and all the information is there. Everything that you need to know. And if you need to contact me, you can contact me at 314-243-1021. And Bernie, we have a brick and mortar site. It's my studio, and so you can even stop by there at 2205 St. Louis Avenue. If you want to come by and visit with me and see that we're for real and we got a brick and mortar site, call me, come by, and just we're here. We're here. Like I said, Bernie, we're not doing this to try to make any money or anything. We're trying to create a movement, and that movement is to move toward us doing business with each other, creating cooperative economics. So that's what I really want to stick. Two things that, people say that black folk need to be united. We need to come together. We need to do that. And I would say, and I declare, that we are united and have always been. We're not a monolith, but we are monolithical. So what I'm doing is trying to create a movement where we do business with each other. So on top of all the things that you just showed, every first Saturday of the month, starting in May, next to my studio, I'm closing down the street, and I'm doing a cooperative economic market there, where vendors can come in for the meager price of $25 and set up and sell their wares and get to know each other.
2205 St. Louis Avenue.
2205 St. Louis Avenue.
Is that near Jefferson?
That's at the corner of 22nd and St. Louis Avenue in the historic St. Louis Place neighborhood.
Okay, 22nd and St. Louis Avenue.
Yeah, yes,
okay.
yes, sir.
Okay, is that near West Florissant?
No, that's right near the new NGA site. About West Florissant is about North Florissant is east of there about 3 blocks, and Parnell is is east of there. I'm sorry.
Is it near the old Prodigal site?
It's near the old Prodigal site. Absolutely.
Okay, 2205 St. Louis Avenue.
2205 St. Louis Avenue at the intersection of 22nd Street in St. Louis.
And they can come in there and even register and participate.
They can call me, and they can come in and register. I'm always there most times because it's my studio. I'm an artist, so that's our brick and mortar site.
This is wonderful.
Yeah. So what are
the hours?
We make the hours is like probably 8 to 5, somewhere in there.
Okay.
But we like to give people our phone number. We like to let people know that we have a brick and mortar site. We like to let people know that we are trying to create a movement, because I don't just do my events. I crisscross this city and do other folks' events. Just like a couple weekends ago, I was at the Urban Art Expo out at the Omega Center. And Bernie, it was so many of our young people out there with their beautiful art and jewelry and food and everything. And I looked around the room, and what the baby boom generation need to do is support what our young people are doing.
Okay.
They're already a part of that movement. I'm just an elder trying to help them do what they do, because I can set up, I have a little money where I can put into this, where they may not have as much to do as many things as I do.
Rudo Elamine, I want to say thank you so much, man. It's such a pleasure, always a pleasure seeing you and doing this live interview with you. I just want to say thank you so much. Good luck on all these wonderful events coming up. I'm going to participate in as many as I certainly can. And thank you for visiting with us today.
Thank you, Bernie, for having me. And always, if my wife get ready to do that exhibition. There's so many things going on, Bernie, this summer that in my world that I'm trying to make happen. That I'm certainly I'll be back on your show.
Okay, we're out of time.
Numerous
Bob.
times.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
and have a great day.
All
and thank you all for supporting the New Life. Keep dancing 6 inches. I'm Bernie Hayes. Have a great day. Please get vaccinated.